There we go.
All right. Stand up. August.
Friday.
Let's go around and see what people are up to. Michelle, you're the first box in my display here.
What an
What do you got?
honor.
It just
Not
means you were
much.
there first.
Yes, I know.
Bryce might have been there first, but he logged off and logged
he
back on,
left,
so I don't
yeah.
know what he is.
Yep. You know, you snooze, you lose. So not much. It's been a slow week for me, but done some mostly ale kiln stuff. Might have the MVP for random input in the works. Reviewed and needs some work, but getting there. And also a couple nice PRs and reviews from Bryce working on some other issues as well. Some good fixes. I don't know. I've been having office hours. That's been fun.
Yes, I'm sure Hayden will speak about this more, but he seems to have been benefiting from those. So.
Yeah. All right. So I think that's it for me.
All right. Well, perfect segue then. Hayden, you're the next of my squares.
Yeah, I did not actually go to Michelle's office hours this week. I had some sort of personal things come up, kept me away. And things have been going pretty good. Still working on that sheet. I have nearly done with all the math. Everything sets values. There's one field that I'm having trouble with. It's like I need to check like 8 different values to see if they're hit a certain threshold, and if they don't, I need to use a different value. Then I need to add them all up and then use that number. So I think it's called an array in Python. I was trying to figure it out, but I have no idea how to make that. So
well, array would be if you had multiple values in one thing. So that's what do you need to do?
I can share screen if you want to see the instructions.
Yes, let's see.
Yes, perfect.
Oh no.
Mhm.
I just was I was solving my Rubik's Cube while earlier in the morning, and then I just picked it up and was using it as a fidget, and I undid my progress.
No.
I gotta put
Oh
that back.
well.
It's this here. So I'll add, there could be up to 5 children on the order, and then there could be parent 1's payments and parent 2 payments, and then the total. And it wants to potentially use all 3 of those variables or values for each child. And it just depends on what each one is set to, on what it's going to use.
So where are you storing you're grabbing a value from?
It's these numbers here is what it'll,
right.
I have it set to 10 here just as a placeholder, but.
And can you have some arbitrary number of children? Or did you only work with what was there?
It's just 1 through 5.
So how did you define those variables?
How did I define?
You had one for each, right?
One
you had
for
child
each of
1,
these
child 2,
cells.
child 3.
Yeah, I have child 1 for parent A and parent B and total. So there's 3 for each child.
All right. Well, then you've sort of worked around what would have been if you were going to do an array. You could have set up an array where it was basically like a tabular form of that data. But if you've set up a variable for each of them, then you've obviated the need for handling it as an array.
Okay.
So you could always go back and make them into an array and do something, but probably not. I think logically for you, it's probably going to make most sense just to deal with them as independent variables.
Yeah, I'm just, the sort of trouble that I'm having is once you check for child 1, like I know how to write that out, but how to hold on to the value that you want to use and then add to the next child's and then add to the next one's. Because it'll end up being the sum of,
Yeah, so I would just do them all independently and then sum them. And if there's nothing there and your value was 0 to begin with, it'll just add nothing to the sum.
Okay. I think that, okay.
It's probably the most straightforward.
All right.
We could do some matrix multiplication and stuff, but let's not worry about that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I'm doing good other than that. It was just sort of this I was stuck on last night. So
cool.
It's so unfair
have
to
office
ask
of-
self-represented people to do that.
Yeah, the whole
But they
thing.
don't have to because it's a fillable, right? It's a fillable PDF.
Well,
It's still
I
pretty
don't know.
confusing, and
Yeah.
it wasn't, the fillable wasn't working now. I was like trying to do it the other day to check the math, and it just was like not printing anything out.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, so it's not a good, the system now is terrible, to be
you-
blunt about it.
Did you ask about zero, Hayden?
I did not ask about zero. Yeah, there is, here, I'll reshare. On the PDF, you know, those, what do you call them? There's like things at the bottom of it, Caroline, the
Tables?
tables. Thank you. My brain is
Oh.
My
off right
progress back. Sorry.
now.
So where
These
you look
tab-
things up. Yeah.
Yeah, so if these are zero, I'm trying to remember the exact question, the problem that we were looking at, Michelle.
If children 18 or older is zero and
I
children
mean, you
under
have
18
no
is,
children 18 or over. Is that what you mean?
mhm.
yep.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Zero.
And you do have children, say 2 children that are under 18. What is the percentage amount?
Yeah.
So what's the question again? Oops.
So if you have 2 children who are under 18, so
Mhm.
Yeah.
you would be on this 2 here, but then you have 0 who are older. There's
Oh,
no,
no, you don't have to worry. It's over on the left. You don't even worry about table C. Because you go over to this, you use this adjustment factor. This is only if you have children, if you don't have any, you're asking if you don't have, you're
this
asking if
won't,
you
this
only have
won't
children over 18. Is that what you're asking?
If you only have
Only
children
under.
under.
and said
Oh,
you
then you
only
don't
use this
use table
adjustment.
C at
right?
all. Don't use table C at all.
Okay. All right. So we can just set it to 0 or 1 to make the math right, whatever it needs to be. Okay.
Well, we shouldn't get into that logic at all is what she's saying, but
Yes,
we
you
do
only
need
use-
a number.
Yeah, you only
Okay.
use children, you only use table C if you have children over 18.
I just mean because this
We need
value
some kind
will
of
be
default
used again.
value.
Like it's going to be applied in the code to another number.
Yeah,
to
if you're
find
if
some-
you're
and it-
if you're changing, then you can just if it's
Oh, I see.
well, it
You
depends on
wanna
how
use
you're
one
changing it. Are you
formula for
increasing it by
everybody.
25%? What are you doing with that percentage?
I'm sorry, could you ask that
What do you-
again?
What are you doing with that percentage?
I am forgetting off the top of my head how this works, but it's
It's so easy. It's so complicated.
it's this here is the cell that it will fill. It
Well,
gets
Okay, but then what do you do with that value? Like, are you adding a percentage? Is it a percentage of?
I think it's
what?
multiplying a different percentage by that 25%. If I'm remembering right, but this is sort of, I don't have
So
the rules in
You
front of me.
should, I think, double check those instructions that,
Mhm.
Yeah.
from Jamie.
So you have,
That 4C, I'm thinking that
It-
might be able to be a 0 because this whole.
yeah, you have two
section
options.
4, yeah, the whole section 4.
Mhm.
It will either be 0 or it will be 1.
Yeah,
Or it'll be 3G.
But
Yes.
the value,
Yes.
if
Yeah.
it falls off, basically, if it falls off the table, the value will either be 0 or 1.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
If you're adding something, then it will be one way. If you're multiplying something, it'll be the other.
Mhm. Yeah, it'll be 0 if we want to add.
Why are you saying it'll be, I'm not quite sure why you're saying it'll be 1, because it's an amount.
If we're multiplying,
It's a percentage. So either the percentage is being used to
Oh,
add. a
sorry.
percentage
Oh,
to
one would
something.
be 100%.
Yes. Yeah, one would be 100%.
That wouldn't be 0. So
But
which
the-
one is it?
It's gonna be one or the two. It depends on what
It's
you're
not,
doing with
that's
the
not a
number.
Are you talking about in the code, or are you talking about actually what's gonna be spat out on the PDF?
I'm
This-
talking about the number that if you're using a
The
percentage.
numbers on the tables are percentages.
Yeah, the numbers in the tables were percentages, which means they're being coded. When you see 1%, it's being coded as 0.01. So depending on what you're doing with that percentage, and if it's not on the table and you don't want it to have any effect,
Okay, right, so that's, you're
it would
talking
either,
about,
yeah.
gotcha, so you're talking about.
I'm talking about the variable that whatever that you're setting based upon that table. If you can set the
Gotcha, okay.
value based upon what's in the table, then you just set it to what the table says.
Right,
If you're not using the table and you don't want it to have any effect, you can do one of two things. You can set up a logical bit of code that doesn't engage that number when there isn't someone over 18, or you can engage the number, but you can set it to be a number that will not change the outcome. And since it's a percentage, there are two options for what would not change the outcome, dependent upon how you're using the number, which would either be 0 or 1.
This
Being
might
that if
make a
you're,
little bit more sense if we looked at the code. if
Well, it
that's-
looks like subtraction is what it looks like. So I would
then it's
say
likely 0.
Are you saying subtraction because of this, Michelle?
No, I'm saying because it's in front of the box.
Okay.
Subtract A, you subtract 5A from whatever's above it. Hang
This
on,
is
let
an
me
equal
get my
sign?
annotation.
We're-
Nope, that's
Oh.
not what I'm talking about.
Okay,
Hang
we're
on.
in 4, aren't we? We're in 4, not 5.
This is subtraction right here.
Yeah, but that's
Subtract whatever from whatever's above it. And so you want this to be 0, so you don't subtract anything.
The,
No.
but the,
I don't think so.
Well, you don't subtract the whole value of 4C. You don't say 4C minus, you know,
Yeah,
the whole
you do.
value.
Yeah, and for 5, you're going to subtract something from 4C.
Mhm.
So what I'm saying is 4C. So this is what I'm a little bit confused about. I don't know why on the PDF, if you say if children over 18, then you put in your formula, you know, else, you know, on the PDF where you put it in, else you're going to put in that same, you're going to put in combined support amount, which would be 3G.
Mhm.
But right, but then 5A, you're subtracting that from 4C. So 4C itself has to be.
So if 4C is $50, and you have no children over
Yeah, except-
18, then you should subtract $50 so that they come out as $0.
Yes, because you can have $0. The minimum order is $50. So even if the child support guidelines worksheet comes up with 0, there's still a minimum order of $50. And it works out that way.
So, but it would come out as $0 in the end.
So we're off by a row. We have off by one
Yeah.
error here.
And
So
yeah.
the table that we're referencing, the 18, the adjustment, is that value the value for 4A?
it is, yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that you can see there in 4B, you're multiplying it by something. So what you're doing is
I wonder
basically,
if I think
Yeah.
actually the table is for 4B, not for 4A.
well, 4B is a calculated value
Table value,
that is
right.
3G times 4A.
Is it telling you to put the adjustment percentage? Sorry, I'm right. You're right.
The
It's
percentage
showing
should go
it
in here
1D.
and then, yeah.
Yeah.
1D and 1E are those children over 18?
What, sorry, what's that? You said 1G? Yes.
D,
Yeah.
like
So
dog,
if-
D and
if-
elephant.
Yeah.
Those are
If-
18.
Whoa.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to show the,
Yeah, that's okay.
yeah.
So if adjustment percentage from the age range, so if we got an adjustment percent, so basically what we're asking about is what is the value you should put in the adjustment percentage, right? So if you're on the table, you put in the adjustment value. So if it's, 50%, you put in 0.5, right?
Mhm.
If it's 25%, you put in 0.25. And then that gets used in 4B as a multiplier times 3G, whatever that is. So it gets, 50% of whatever 3G is, or 25% of whatever 3G is. And then you subtract that. It looks like here that the point is you don't want to subtract anything if there is no adjustment, correct? Because there would be no adjustment.
Subtractions in 5, there's no subtraction in 4, right?
I understand, that's correct, yep.
I
But
think
you're
you're,
not-
what you're saying is right, David.
4C is a, sorry,
Yeah.
4C is a.
So if you're not going to want to subtract anything, the way to not to have anything to subtract is to turn it to 0.
0, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
That answers, I think, the confusion of the table.
Yeah.
So there will be no adjustment.
Wow, I
Um,
so completely don't understand that. I'm glad y'all are doing the math.
That's okay. And then the key thing is that once you have it in, you'll have concrete examples you can run through, and you'll check to make sure it makes sense.
We can, that's really it. We can jump to someone else. That was a long.
I think we got it.
That
Yeah.
is so hard. That child support guidelines worksheet is so hard.
So basically, the answer is, if you can imagine now that there is another column in C, which is 0/18, in which case it's 0%.
Yeah.
So you can just, there's a shadow column there that you can use when you're coding.
That's weird because it seems to increase percent. I mean, the fewer children under 18 you have.
It's the zeros being used to
I mean,
exclude
the fewer
it.
children over 18 you have. So if you have 2 children over 18, you have less percent than I see, because it's
Yes.
subtraction.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I don't know. Okay. Yeah, I still don't understand. All right, whatever.
You'll put it in, it'll spit out answers. They will make sense or they won't make sense.
Great.
Fix
we
it
will
later.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
But I think that's the way to proceed is, if they don't have any children over 18, set that value to 0.
Imagine writing instructions for this.
Well, yeah, it's a little ambiguous, isn't it?
It's hard. It's really hard.
All
I
right.
think they are more fair now after this, but and you know what? 2018, I think it was 2018 when Massachusetts revised the child support guidelines. Guess when they have to do it again?
2019.
2022.
Great.
Hopefully it won't be a lot of change.
Maybe they won't change it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Hayden?
No, no, that's good.
And if you have any issues, yeah, throw them in Teams and
Yeah, that came up late last night. That sort of stopped with that weird logic I was working on. So I just thought
if you want to get back to the math, ping me and I'll
I will.
we can go
Yeah.
through it.
Yeah, math and me, not a great mix. So
I don't know. You've been doing all sorts
I
of
know,
mathy
I'm
things this
pretty
entire
impressed.
time.
I'm very
Yeah, well,
impressed.
Math is just common sense through other means, right? That's a famous saying.
after a 5-hour headache, but yeah, I suppose.
Well, you're trying to do it late at night, staring at a computer,
Fair.
missing
right.
your twin.
In that case, then, Bryce.
Me. So the probably more I've been doing is just a scattering of all the different things that I've been trying to work on. I did, by network inspecting what the Tyler, Massachusetts staging site uses, I was able to get a filing through to the appeals court that actually worked. But the bad news is that the long story short, I kept getting an error when I was trying to file to the appeals court saying, hey, you need to, it was something like lower court text not available or something. And I was like, okay, so that's wrong. And I asked them several times. They're like, the name goes there. And I'm like, it clearly doesn't. I already did that. Here are the 5 other things that I've tried. And they're like, so wait, this is this. And then at one point they were like, this is Illinois, right? And I'm like, no, this is Massachusetts. I know I've been working in Illinois a lot past, but I said this was Massachusetts. And it is went back and forth a lot. And then they were try and recreate it on our site. I couldn't. But then going into the network, packets that are sent back and forth, when you load the page, I can see, oh, these are what populate the drop down when you look at the lower courts, and the numbers don't come from anywhere. There's no equivalent numbers that I can find using our API or the APIs we have access to, which means it's something that Tyler just doesn't document, and we do have access to it, but it's just not documented at all. Or it's something that's worst case is that it's something that Tyler has access to through the court CMS, but we don't. And so I've asked for several clarifications. They responded back at one point saying we'll get you the XML. What's this information? We'll get you the XML that was sent. And I was like, I already explained. I don't need that. I need the list of codes. Where do you find that? And
All
so I have like a hacky solution where I've literally just looked at all of the codes and I was like, okay, this housing court is this one. I'll just
Okay,
hand
so
type
there's
that,
a-
but it won't. But that don't. Given how often Tyler likes to change things, I'm not confident that that will stay
right.
stable.
So,
Um,
so if I understand the problem, they require you to send some bit of information,
yes,
which is maybe a code for a court.
yes, but it's not the same code for the courts that we use when we're like talking directly to that court. There's a different code.
There's some other. So we tell it what court it's at twice. One of those times seems to be undocumented, and you were just able to sniff it out to figure
Yes.
out what it was. And
Yes.
so the problem is that if that ever changed for some reason, then that would break things.
Yes, and I wouldn't know it would have changed other than everything is broken suddenly when filing the appeals courts.
So and you have asked them where is the list of these things found,
Yes,
and they have been like, oh, list of what?
they just did not respond to that particular question yesterday, and I was like, let me restate it again very clearly. This is the question I have.
Okay.
And so we'll see where that goes. And my fear is that it was one of those things if I responded like 5 minutes after and then got radio silent still. So my fear is that it is something that Tyler has access to, but Tyler has not built an API for it in Massachusetts. And so the answer is you can't do anything with that.
Yeah. Do we down?
The best thing we can do.
So we download codes from Mass every night the same way we do with the other ones, right?
Yep.
And it's just not in that. Is that where you would think it would be?
Yeah, that's where I thought it would be, and it's just not there. Because it's something, I don't know, I guess it's maybe something about how the appeals court handles lower courts. It's just doing different things. And so
I got ya. So maybe the difference is there are the court identifiers that the courts themselves use and the court identifiers that the appeals court use.
Yes. And we
don't have the latter.
We don't have the latter, and we need the latter to file to the appeals court. There doesn't seem like there's any other way to just not include it or something like that. So
and these are just numeric. Are they strings? What is the?
Yeah, they're just numeric strings. Like it's 1, 2. I think one of the ones was like 1757 for Boston, like BMC Eastern or something like that.
One thing you might want to ask is Paul if those numbers mean anything to him.
That's
there is a
fair. Okay.
There are some docketing conventions and definitions of what courts are what that the court uses. Now, the only thing is, I would imagine if that was the case, those would also be the ones that the courts would use themselves. But it's possible it might be a pattern he recognizes. It likely isn't, but it's probably worth asking.
Okay. That's a good point. I do think that's at least worth trying to ask. I can simplify it out and just say, hey,
if I said this number equaled this court, would that make sense to you? What if I said this number equaled this court?
Yeah.
Anything? Yeah.
Okay. That's a good thing. Because I don't know. I would like to push Tyler on this, but I don't know how to continue to push Tyler.
Yeah. Well, the thing is going to happen is that if they don't have it, Paul's going to have to be the one who pushes from the court side. Who says, well, I mean, you could push, but they might not, respond, right? I mean, the thing is, I think politically what will have to happen is Paul will say, hey, we want to do this thing with them. We're all ready, except there's this list here. Where does it come from? Can you at least just put it in the codes? And then they'll do that. My guess is they have this hard coded somewhere and then aren't sharing it with in the code drops.
Okay.
Just a guess, but
that makes sense. And hopefully,
of course, my guess is just reflecting your guess. So really, it sounds like that's your guess. So
no, that's fair. But I do at least have concrete things to do other than just wait for Tyler to respond. So that's good. Okay.
And then what we can always do is prepare the hacky thing. Get it all ready.
That's what I have been doing. I just don't want to go live with that. So
exactly. We can do all the testing.
And so okay.
And we can just use that to do all the testing. And then that way, Paul can be like, it's all ready. We just need Tyler to give them this. And then,
cool. Okay. Yeah, that is good. That is probably a bit a bit easier to get other people in the courts to push on Tyler. So if it is already.
Their response time, their response criteria seems to be, do I need to do this? And do I need to do this now? And I don't think they're going to feel they need to do anything until it's the last thing holding stuff up.
Mhm. Okay. Cool. So
Cool though. That's progress.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
actual
that is
progress.
very big. That's very big progress. And I was like, later on Wednesday, I was like, wow, this is great. I was just saying earlier that day, like, I have no idea how long it will take me to find this out. And so glad that I found it out the same day.
I also like that for background for other folks, the question was, would Tyler get back to him about an undocumented process, or would he use his sleuthing engineering skills to figure out what's going on under the hood? And I'm pleased to see that sleuthing has won out.
It actually did pay out. And we're doing some other stuff as well. The only thing I'm doing mostly now is I'm doing another pass at accessibility this time. Now that the Illinois interview is all the way in, I've done that, gone through that, and there was only a few small things. One of which might become a DocAssembly upstream fix. Like, I'm not sure if it will though. But I did have to stop myself from going down a full accessibility audit on like how usable Bootstrap components are. But I'll do that at some point. But yeah, that's it.
All right. Cool. Well, that's a lot of progress. That's very. I find that very exciting. We're coming. Caroline.
So I missed Monday management and grant partners. We're waiting for the developers to get back to us. They wanted a sample DocAssembly interview, and I have a really crappy one up there. It was just basically I took the A to J off their template and dumped it in DocAssembly.
Okay.
I do not want to do sample DocAssembly interviews. I just don't want to spend my time doing that. And I'm working on the what is it? It's a guided assistant to getting a restraining order, and I hit a substantive issue problem.
Okay.
And so I'm waiting for some substantive experts to explain to me what this language actually means. So that's where I am. But Kristen from the Court Service Center emailed Hayden and me. She's away next week, but she seems pretty excited about getting together week after next. So I guess we'll look, and she knows who this Justice Fellow is. So
Okay.
So I guess we're going to try and set up a meeting week after next.
Hayden, you've got 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I know. That's what I'm thinking. Is Hayden still going to be here by the time we get this meeting? I know what you said last week, but still.
I'm around.
Nice
Don't
to have it done.
I meant it would be fun if he could go into that meeting with a working
Completed.
prototype of what he had.
Yeah.
So we could show what DocAssembly can do.
If you want some extra time outside of office hours, we can try and do that.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I'll message you.
I think you're really close though.
I think I'm getting there. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you have something that takes in input, produces output. You just need to have it do all the math. And then once you have that, you have something that works. Then you just need to make the language and the elicitation of the information as easy as possible.
Just got to
And
remove
if
the
the fillable
quotes.
PDF isn't working, that's even better.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, that was
that's
pretty
not good that the
frustrating
fillable
to go.
PDF
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
good, but I mean, it'll make your interview 10 times more valuable, won't it?
Definitely. Yeah.
I think I just realized that Yvette is on her phone because she tapped at us. And now that the funny thing. Oh, I didn't mean to scare you away. Now I understand the vertical alignment. All right. Anything else, Caroline?
I think that's it. Yeah.
All right, Yvette.
Yes, sorry, I was not like rushing anyone. I was just receiving a message. My computer is here, so everything is fine. I'm just tired of connecting to my computer. But I've been working on the feedback you gave me on Thursday, and I'm pretty much done with everything that I had to change in the code, except for one if else statement that I know I can do. I just I've been putting it in kind of the last thing I do because I don't remember exactly how to do it, but I know how to.
And how long do we have you for? That's the thing I want to start being conscious of.
So, I mean, I'm going to be working with Nicole at least until the end of the summer, so 29th of August.
Yeah. 'Cause what I-
But after that, I've been talking to her about maybe working during the fall semester as well. I don't know.
What I want to try to do is I would like you to get to have a meeting where you can show off some of the work you've done to the client. I want to make sure we try to get that in before you disappear.
And
'Cause I think that's a
maybe,
valuable experience.
maybe the
Yeah.
posts and the the issues left, to add the issues to GitHub.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, any of the issues that you haven't I haven't addressed, you should put them on GitHub to make sure
Okay.
that
Like
someone
anything
will.
that you haven't gotten to
Yeah,
yet, or
yeah.
that could be improved
It-
in the future.
In
or
theory, you
whatever.
should be doing that in a rolling basis, but I think Michelle's point was that when you leave, we want to make sure that everything's there so we know it's all in one spot. Was that what you were suggesting? All right, cool.
Yes,
Well, then
yes.
it sounds like everyone has stuff that they're doing and knows what they're going to do for the next bit. We're 7 minutes over our time. I'll do one little announcement which is mostly like an aside to Bryce. I found like 7,000, roughly 7,000 forms in our form explorer that had no fields at all, and was able to, which is to say we've done, for context, everyone, we've downloaded 20 forms from 25 states, in total being about 18,000 forms. Only about 10,000 of those forms were we able to process. Some of them didn't have any fields because no one had added fields to the PDFs, but Bryce wrote a nice little tool that had some fields, and I think we were able to get the majority of them now with fields that didn't have fields. So my computer chugged along for a couple hours yesterday, just going through a couple thousand
That's
forms.
fantastic.
And so that worked really well, and it didn't seem to throw any terminal errors, although it didn't seem to process every one of them. So I've got to look into that exactly. But
What happened with the replacing, if you have a form and then you just want to use the same fields and replace it with a different form, what happened with that?
there's a thing now.
Oh, it works. You're using it now.
There's a tool, whether it's, I think it's, I'll have to check that actually. That's a good question. I know it was like it needed to become like a actual like piece of code we could call, and I think that went through, but I don't know if we made it like an easy thing to use.
Yeah.
So
I
like
thought
it
I
was just
saw
like
it-
a quick DocAssembly interview that you would upload two things to, and it would.
Yeah, I thought I saw it in the drop down for the dashboard.
Dashboard?
It might be there. Yeah,
I think it's there.
I know.
I
I know
remember
Britton has done a lot of work with it. I have not been following what he's been
I
doing.
think it's in the dashboard, and I think he may have integrated it into the Weaver, or at least he was at one iteration. He was playing around with integrating into the Weaver, and I can't remember. I feel like the last integration I didn't see it there, but I thought at one point I did see it there. So, but I do think it's in the dashboard.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So you should give that a look. That'd be an easy thing to check right now, but we're going to stop recording because it's Casual Friday. Oh, and my previous comment was just like, thanks, Bryce. That tool worked well. That was what I was saying.